manages over 2,000 facilities for websites and web design. Chris has been helping web self-storage owners and operators build their internet marketing programs for quite a while now. They were listed as one of the top growing companies by Inc. 5000. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Chris up and let him talk to us about website development.
Do we have one I can walk around?
Microphone?
Yeah. Good, because I can't stand behind that thing. I'm too short. So, it's funny, I was just talking to Stacy over there, and I was just telling her that every time I get up in front of people, no matter how much I do it, I always get nervous. And so I was talking to my wife last night about it, and she's like, don't worry, you don't have to try to be too funny or intelligent or charming, just be yourself. So that's what you're going to get today. You're going to get me being me. That's right. It hurts just a little bit every time.
I love you too.
So I have a question for everybody. Who in here has ever made a bad decision? And I'm not talking about the kind of bad decisions that violate the life rule, vodka goes good with everything but decisions, but the kind of decision that had every good intention, but it just came out bad. Show of hands, anybody make bad decisions? Well, you know what? That's just about all of us. So we now know that we make bad decisions. Most of us aren't afraid to admit it. And well, the rest of you, well, you're lying, right? Nobody always makes good decisions because nobody's perfect. So we know that when bad decisions are made, that's one thing, regardless of the intent, but why? Why do you make a bad decision? And in thinking about that and doing a little bit of research, there's a whole lot of reasons, but let's just talk about 2 or 3 of them. One of them's laziness, right? And it's not that you're lazy people. You're all typically self-employed and you work hard and you have successful businesses, so you're not lazy. But regarding that decision that you made, you might not have investigated it fully. You might not have thought it through well enough. You didn't put enough time and effort into that decision to understand what the possible outcomes could be, right? So it's kind of laziness surrounding that decision. Unintended consequences. That's another one, right? Everything that you thought about, it looked like it was going to work very well. But for some reason, you failed to see what that decision touched, or some things that it might have interacted with, which caused the thing that it was rubbed up against to go awry, right? So it's unintended consequences. They happen all the time. We're pretty familiar with it. So let me ask another question. Who in here has a $10 bill? I want to illustrate a point. Anybody in here have a $10 bill? Oh, Lou has a $10 bill.
Yes,
What did I just do?
gave me a 20 for a 10.
Anybody else have a $10 bill? Oh, there's probably a few of you that want to get on this action. Who's got a $10 bill? Anybody back here? Oh, he's got a $10 bill. Fantastic.
You're fine.
It's your lucky day. What did I just do?
Double my money.
Oh, yeah, I doubled his money. Anybody else have a $10 bill?
About 100.
Whoa! Sarah Beth over here. Look at this. She's smiling and she's anxious. And look at all this now. She has.
More people got it.
She's got it. Look at that. Thanks. So I always thought I was going to lose money on that deal, but I didn't.
Are you my ex-husband?
I am not her ex-husband. Just understand. Oh, well, here I should probably give that back to you. My third point is you can make decisions by living in the past. See, Sarah Beth thought because that had happened, and it worked the way that it did, doubling her money, that she should make that decision again, but obviously she was wrong. But it helped me. It was more profitable. So really, you now know that you make that bad decisions, typically because they're not thought through well enough, that, and what I'm trying to do here is frame what we're talking about today. And what we're talking about today is the science of internet marketing. And we make decisions typically based on emotion, not science. So in order to kind of give you some perspective and give you some examples of the things related to the internet that we make bad decisions on, I first need to talk a little bit about your website. So your website is very important to your internet marketing because it is the home base for everything that you're going to do online. It's your image. It's where you send all of the people that you pay to attract as a potential customer online. So what does that need to look like? Well, your website, the way I think about it, is it has to be pretty, aesthetically pleasing, right? Has to have a direct path for the potential customer to buy, because that's good for your wallet. And it has to be fast. It has to have no latency, right? Because we live in a world today that everybody wants things instantly, right? Nobody wants to wait anymore. So your website has to have a good user experience. How do you know if your website has a good user experience? Well, you measure it. Well, how do you measure it? Well, first of all, you can do things like focus groups, which is where you actually watch somebody use your website and then they verbalize their experience. So you're watching them use it and they're telling you what they're thinking as they go through it. So that's one way you do it. The other way is you can do heat maps and conversion funnel testing, but those are really simply electronically spying on people, right? That's what those are. That's what Google and Apple and Facebook and all these guys do to you every single day. Because every move you make is being tracked and monitored, and that's what you need to do to make sure that your website creates a good user experience. And then, how do you know if doing the first two things is paying off? Well, you measure the performance of that user experience with key metrics. Now, I've boiled them down. There's literally hundreds of metrics that you can look at, but I've boiled them down to these four. And last year, we were talking and we said their visits, calls, conversion, and cost, right? 3 C's and a V, but I since changed that because 4 C's is much easier to remember and it sounds cooler. So visits are clicks, the people that come to your website. The calls are people that engage over the telephone. The conversions is what we would call happen either from those visits or those calls that turn into a customer. And then the cost, obviously, is what you've paid to get those customers. And with those 4 metrics, you can gauge whether or not your website is performing and your marketing is performing to your expectations. And that's important. So now that we understand that, what we want to do, so at this point we understand that we make decisions emotionally, we make bad ones, we understand some of the reasons how we should think differently to make good ones. And so today, I want to go over some different things that help you think differently. So, to illustrate my point, if I asked you a question and I said, I have a bat and a ball for sale. The bat, together, they are $1.10. And the bat is $1 more than the ball. Instantly, most of you will come up with the both obvious and incorrect answer that the ball's a dime. But it's not. Right? Your brain took a shortcut to make a decision and provide an answer that feels good, but is wrong. Does anybody know what the right answer is? Stacy?
It's a nickel.
It is a nickel, right? Because $1.05, which is what the bat would be, is $1 more than a nickel, which is what the ball is. So, what are some other things, how we can relate this to what the decisions you guys are making for your internet marketing? Well, I want to talk about the right and wrong way to look at SEO. I want to talk about how you win at your level, and I want to ask you some questions about is, quote, unquote, it worth it? And the it may not be what you think it is. So, in order to do that, oh yeah, I gotta let you listen to a board meeting that we had about this very thing, about how we think differently.
This is where all our work is done. So what are you gonna do with all these underpants that you steal? Collecting underpants is just phase 1. Phase 1, collect underpants. So what's phase 2? Hey, what's phase 2? Phase 1, we collect underpants. Yeah, but what about phase 2? Well, phase 3 is profit, get it? I don't get it. You see, phase 1, collect underpants. Phase 2, phase 3 is profit. Hey, I get it. No, you don't.
So, those of you who watch South Park will know I bleeped out the last 2 words, and those of you who don't will appreciate that I did. What I like to call what we're missing is phase 2. It's phase 2 thinking that's missing. We all believe we have to participate in certain things. AdWords, SEO, social media, reputation, writing blogs, like all of the things that people are telling you to do, and for the most part, those things are all good. And the only reason that you do any of those is profit, right? Or positive revenue of some kind. And what happens is, we know we need to do AdWords, so we go ahead and participate in AdWords and send all of the clicks to your website and then hope it works out. Well, that's not smart, right? So phase 2 is really trying to bridge what you're doing for the purpose of the outcome that it was designed for. And everything that we're talking about, obviously, is for generating revenue. So you need to understand what bridges the activity that you're doing with that expected outcome. Here's a good shot of a guy that might have missed some phase 2 thinking, right? My guess is phase 1 here was to install a new urinal for the purpose, phase 3, of increasing the occupancy of the men's room. Now, I'm going to say that you've got to be pretty good friends to stand there. And my guess is that phase 2 was missing, and really all you did is give this guy a choice of direction. Right? Right? A high sign. Right? I can tell you that I personally am legally blind in my left eye, and if I cover my right one, that sign high is not going to get my attention. Right? So phase 2 was obviously missing there. How about this one? Security cameras. You guys have all these security cameras at your facilities. My guess is the purpose of this was to monitor the activity in the store with the security camera. However, unless what's happening in the store is in that 3 inches between the camera and the sign, they missed it. Right? How about this one? Right? They wanted to control traffic with a traffic signal. Well, unless you're driving really slow, looking through the sunroof straight up, you probably never even saw it. So they were missing a lot of the phase 2. Just doesn't make sense. Well, how does that relate to your website and your internet marketing? Let's talk about a few things. So here's what I hear often. SEO is what everybody's focused on. Why? Because it's the quote-unquote free traffic, right? It is the best return on investment. Well, is that true? It could be. I can't stand up here and give you all the answers. If I had all the answers, well, I wouldn't be here. I can guarantee you that. I would be somewhere. But the reality is, what do you typically see in search results? So first of all, Google search results, they have over 50 different pages for different results. You guys know, you use Google, you search, right? And depending on what you search for, the layout might be different. Well, storage is all one search page. And right now, the search page looks like ads at the top, maps in the middle, and then the organic or quote-unquote free results at the bottom, right? So performing and paying for SEO, really, you're aiming for the top or bottom, right? That's what you're going for. And so if you look at that, how much resources and time and money and effort should you put into your SEO efforts? Well, what do we typically see today? When you do a search, don't you typically see a REIT at the top, a national brand? Don't you typically see Sparefoot #2? They pretty much have the #2 spot locked up. Then you typically see a regional brand, some larger regional brand, and then you see the smaller. Well, the idea of you thinking that you're going to somehow trick Google into placing you above a national brand, well, I'm here to tell you to stop thinking that way, because it doesn't work that way anymore. Google's too smart to work that way. They actually have artificial intelligence now, right? So they know how you think, they know your search patterns, they know what that best user experience is, and they produce search results accordingly. So in reality, if you spend a ton of money and you move from position 9 to position 4, which we've kind of assessed as probably your best position if you're not in one of those first 3 categories, you now can increase your traffic by about 3.5%. Well, if you do 100 rentals a year on your website, that's about 1 per quarter, or 1 every 3 months, and I rounded up. So how much money should you spend to work on those results? Well, you decide, right? Because that's what happens. I have bad star ratings, I'll just get better reviews. Really? Is that a good strategy? I mean, that's typically the strategy that I hear. People come up to me and they say, well, can't you just get rid of them? Well, no, I can't. If you look at this, I just pulled a random search in Tucson, and right now, if you look at the star ratings, because the middle guy's got 3.5 stars, he now has to get half of an average size facility to give him a 5-star rating just to be competitive with the other 2. Right? That's not a good strategy. The best strategy would be not to get the bad reviews in the first place. Just because you can't operate your business the same as you always have when the transparency is on the internet is absolutely transforming at the speed of light right now. You can't hide anything. So the best practice might be to run your businesses so that you don't get bad reviews, right? A few years back, I did a presentation, and it was very trendy and cool to put your Facebook posts on the front homepage of your website, because that was supposed to help your organic results, and it was supposed to make you cool because that's what everybody was doing. I randomly walked up, grabbed my iPad, pulled up a national brand. I looked at the national brand, and on the front page of their website, from Facebook, there was a lady who posted, your gate hours are inconvenient. You locked me out because I couldn't get there on time. I hope you rot in hell. Now that's a pretty strict punishment for not being open when it was convenient to her, but that was on the front page of the website. Trendy? Probably not smart, right? So I design websites so that I like the look of them. I've been doing this for 20 years. And I know that you guys are storage professionals. And you have forgotten more about storage than most people will ever know. So why on earth would you want to design a website that fits your desire as opposed to what your potential customers want. That does not make any sense. I liken it to wearing shoes, right? The most popular size shoe is a 10.5. Some of you probably even wear a 10.5. But a 10.5 shoe only fits about 15% of the population. It's the same thing with your website. You have data available to you, or other people have it, they're willing to share with you about what it takes to create a good user experience in a website. So when you approach that subject, the mindset shouldn't be, I like this, therefore it should be built that way. Now don't get me wrong, it's your checkbook. You can build whatever you want. But you can't do it with the purpose of the most revenue and then think that the way you want it is the way it works when it's the way you want it will work for the most revenue if there's data to suggest the contrary, right? So you have to be real careful when it comes to that. You don't want to do it that way. I ask people point blank when I get into this discussion, and that's the opposing viewpoint, is I like it. I simply ask people, did you want me to cater to your ego or your wallet? Because that's what you're not being arrogant or anything, that's not what I'm suggesting, but that's what's happening. Designing something the way you want it because you like it should never supersede the data that shows what your potential customers want, because they will cater to your wallet. And that's really what you're going for, otherwise you wouldn't do any of this stuff. Saving money is my highest priority. Well, I live with 4 females, and I gotta tell you, that's high on my priority list. And I think saving money is great, I'm not gonna lie. However, should it be your highest priority? Storage is competitive now. It's not like it was back in the day, where if you built it, they will come. They still come, but they've got a whole lot of choices. And the reality is you guys are going to have to change, and the paradigm shift is going to be revenue focused, not expense cutting. Because that's what your competitors are doing. They are focused on generating revenue. So in reality, what are the things that you should do in priority that use up your time and your money? And in order to do that, you have to organize a set of data to make decisions and measure the outcome, right? Because that's using data, that's using science. Science is data. It's nothing but a systematically organized set of information around any given topic. That's the definition of science, right? And we shorten it by just calling it use data to make better decisions. So is SEO in fact a better thing for you to focus on? Or is it paid? Or is it social media? Well, it depends. If you're in a big urban market and you're competing with the REITs and some big name brands, you might not want to focus on SEO, and you might want to focus on your strategy surrounding your ads, or focus on making sure all of your map listings are correct across the web, so that because you are where you are on a map, right? You're not going to pick your facility up and move it. It is what it is. And based on how the devices work today, they know where you are. Google knows and Apple knows that you're sitting where you're sitting right now. They know we're all here. It is insane what they know. But on the other hand, if you're in a rural market and you're the king, I tell people all the time, if you're the only game in town, you can put a fence they put around a prison, and people will scale it and climb over it to rent your units. But that is less and less the case. So determine what's important to you, what you think you can get out of it, what resources you have available, and maximize that effort. But it's not always what they are saying. Now, I don't know who they are, but they give a lot of bad advice. We all know they say. I always ask, well, who are they? Well, it's just them. They say, right? You shouldn't take advice from people who don't understand how it's like any of us with kids, right? The people with no kids always have all this parenting advice, right? And it's always top-notch and right on. right? I mean, in their mind, right? That's the way it is. It's the same here. They have a lot of opinions about what should be done, but very few people actually measure the outcome. So, how do you win? Well, I can tell you that you design an SEO strategy or an SEM strategy, which is search engine marketing, around your hyper-local market. It is so advanced now that you can literally figure out where all your customers or your potential customers live. You can create geofencing around, and then you can target ads to those people. It will not be long before Google knows that you drive by a certain facility every day, and then you can be targeted a certain times a week because you're in that proximity. Or you might be moving. Or, I mean, are you kidding me? Has anybody in here ever been talking about something like taking a trip in front of Alexa or Google Home or Apple, and then all of a sudden you get those ads, those creepy ones that follow you around? They're listening. Look at all the stuff with Facebook. This is not far-fetched anymore. Pretty soon you're going to be talking about taking a trip with your wife, maybe to the Bahamas. I mean, maybe somewhere a little bit more exotic for you guys because you can like swim there from here, I guess. But I live on the West Coast, so that would be quite a trip for me. And then you're going to be on the internet and you're going to get a message that says, hey, we heard you want to go to the Bahamas. We know this is how much money you make and that you normally take your 2 kids. If you just click here, the whole trip's booked for you. That is literally where we're going. Why do you think Facebook is in trouble? Anybody have the Facebook app on their phone in here? Well, guess what? They are listening to you. That's how they get those ads. That's how they do it. Alexa has called 911. In case you don't know, that's the Amazon Echo.
Yeah.
Alexa has called the police for a domestic violence situation. The people did not call, but the police came because she listens. It is crazy. As a matter of fact, I was talking, AJ asked me about that the other day. He goes, I was listening to this in the car and then I saw those ads. He goes, that's creepy. And I'm like, yeah, it really is. But you have the ability to target people very specifically, and it doesn't matter if Extra Space is in your market. Because chances are you're marketing to people within a certain radius of your facility. So you design your strategy in your backyard. You don't have to compete with somebody who designs a national strategy, right? Because the national strategy doesn't matter. It's completely different than the way you would do it. So you can win. Design a reputation strategy that's proactive. Don't let your managers, or if you're a manager, don't treat every person so that you can get that 5-star review. Don't treat them just like they don't matter and then hope they don't put on there. And if they do, then you go out and try to get more reviews to suppress that one. You know, it's pretty insane. Now, granted, 1% of the population is just crazy. I mean, you're going to have a hard time getting those people to say anything nice. I mean, that's all there is to it. But the reality is we live in a world where everything you say and do can be published online in just a few seconds. And people are much more likely to post a negative experience than a positive one. You all know if you're trying to get people to write positive things about you online, it's like pulling teeth. Right? But negative, let me tell you, they will go and rip you apart. That's what happens now. You have a bad experience, they'll smile to your face, go home to their computer, and they will beat the snot out of you. And then you will suffer for it. Because that's what people are using to determine whether you're a quality business or not, is what other real customers say. So you want to be real careful about that. So design a website with a great user experience. The entire internet is driven by the user experience now. We talk about SEO, and what people equate that to is a tactical effort to be placed on Google somewhere that they didn't place you on their own merit, on your own merit based on their criteria. Well, the tactical stuff doesn't matter anymore. Because back in the day, the way that it worked was, you built a website, if you weren't placed where you wanted to, you would insert keywords and tags and code and sort of what we would call on-page SEO in order to rank higher. Because you know that if you rank higher, you get more customers, right? Because more people came. That's the way it was. Well, Google lets you use their search index for free. It also lets you put your business in that for free. Does anybody ask why? Why do you think they do that? Because they're studying your habits and your patterns in your brain. They want to know how the human brain works, right? So a couple years ago, they created the Rank Brain, their own brain. And that thing measures the user experience of any website. So if, in fact, your website produces what their user wants in any given search, you rank higher because it's a better experience. The last thing Google wants to become is Bing, right? Where you search for something and then people can manipulate based on money, tactics. It's all about the end result. Their purpose is to deliver what the customer wants based on any given search. And if your website can do that, you will go up. So before it was, we will tactically maneuver up and get more customers. Now it's give customers what they want and you'll get higher position, you'll get more of them. Right? Because tactical SEO is basically telling Google they got it wrong. Well, guess what? They no longer, Matt Cutts was the SEO guy at Google for years. He no longer works there, and he doesn't have a replacement. They have Rank Brain, artificial intelligence. They don't need humans to figure this out. So what are they telling you? We don't get it wrong. That's what they're telling you. We don't get it wrong anymore. So now, it's not unimportant. All of that tactical code stuff is not unimportant because they need to read certain things. But the idea that you're going to go into any given market and hire some kid in his basement that lives with his mom, that's in his underwear and works on your website, and is going to get you all this free stuff, that is over. It is over. It's been over, and it's not coming back. Kids in their underwear, teenagers, are not going to make you millions. That happened in the late 90s, early 2000s, but it doesn't work that way anymore. So understand the user experience is valuable because the future of searches is not where you're going to have to sift through a bunch of results to find what you want. The future of searches is going to be where Google knows enough about you to deliver one result, the one you want. And think about how cool that is as the user, right? It is pretty cool. If you just search for something and they knew exactly what you wanted and they delivered that one result and it was right every time, you would be ecstatic. Think about what you're allowing them to get, how far into your life you're allowing them to get now to make it convenient. Hey, don't go down to the Georgian Club, that room looks pretty full, and I don't think you're going to get in and have a good experience, right? They know that. So you have to understand that their goal isn't to give you 10 results to search through or 15 results to search through. It's to give you the one that you want. Now, if you're the customer, you're going to love it. Like I said, if you're the business and you're not that one result, you're going to hate it because you don't get a chance. So in reality, everything that you're focused on should be the user experience. Because I don't know how long it'll take to get there, but you know it's coming, right? You just know it's coming. So then the question would be, is it worth it? It's what we talked about at the beginning. What is it? So, for example, every day in your business you have decisions to make. If you offer teaser rates that are artificially low, but you get people in and then you just drive the rate up so it's at the same or higher than everybody else, is that a good practice? You guys charge late fees. There's a bunch of practices. Now, Scott Zucker, you can ask him all about the legalities of having to do that. What I'm talking about is how do these decisions affect revenue? So if you have a habit of offering an almost free unit, you get somebody in and then you cook them by raising the rate up, and then they go out online and they tell 1,000 people in your neighborhood, how effective is that strategy going to be later? Not effective. Would you guys buy it? You wouldn't buy it. You'd look at that and you'd read about 15 times that happened to somebody. You wouldn't believe those rates online no more than nothing because you know what would happen. And you probably wouldn't rent, right? If you have an extremely active social media person and you charge a late fee, and then they're out posting to 1,000 people that you're charging late fees, look, I get it. People are late, they should pay. If you make a decision based on principle, it shouldn't matter what it costs. But if we're purely talking about the pros and cons to your revenue based on decisions that you make, if you're charging a late fee to one person, and even if you collect that fee several times, but then 2 other people don't rent from you, what's the balance there, right? I don't know the answer to that question. You guys would know the answer to that question far better than I would. I'm just posing the question. Because oftentimes asking the question will lead you to the right answer. Now legally you might have to, I have no idea. But a lot of these questions come up. You know, charging an admin fee online when you reserve. I mean, there's a whole bunch of business practices where you have to determine what is the effectiveness of that to my revenue compared to if everybody knows that I'm doing this, how does that negatively impact my revenue? Because that really is what we're talking about. Is, again, the paradigm shift. Stop saving money, start generating revenue. Let's see how long I have here. So now, everybody knows that he who has the most information wins, typically, in an argument. Unless it's me with my wife, then of course it doesn't matter. I lose and buy flowers. So it doesn't matter. But typically in business, he who has the most information wins, right? Because if you know something, you're prepared and you make better decisions. So if you take nothing home from this today, take this home, right? Who in here knows the average value of their tenant without a doubt and could give me a number if I asked? Okay, that's, I know you do. You need to know that. That is the foundation for everything that we're talking about. That is the basics. That is the training wheels on the bike of marketing, right, for you. Because if you don't know what something's worth, how do you know what to pay for it? What gauge are you using? We know you're not using science or data, right? Because if you don't know your tenant value, how could you possibly know? If you're paying $400 to get a customer and they're worth $500, that's probably not a good deal, right? It's probably a bad deal. But if they're worth $5 grand, that might be a heck of a deal. So you have to pay attention. So please, write these down. Maybe somebody could hand out these slides, because there wasn't enough hands to show that you guys understand this. And if you know what your average tenant value is, you now can figure out what you should pay to get one, right? The cost to acquire a tenant. And all you need to figure out what your acquisition costs are the 4 C's, right? You've got clicks, calls, conversion, and costs. So if you know how many people are coming, how many people bought something, what you paid overall for that to happen, you now have a cost per acquisition. If you compare that to your average tenant value, you now can understand whether you're doing a good or bad job, right? So if you take nothing else from this home today, please take this home, because when I come back, I'm going to ask this question again. And yes, there will be points deducted from you. I will put this on your permanent record if you don't know that, right? We all have one of those from school. So take this home, please, guys, because it's going to make a big difference in your life. This will change the way you do business. And this information is easily acquired from your management software, from your marketing people, whoever you're working with. These are the basics of the basics. So get that down. So I hope I've helped a little bit today.
Go back to that one slide.
Whoa. Yes, ma'am.
Make sure everybody gets a picture of it.
Everybody's getting a picture of this. The next slide will not be as photogenic. I can promise you that.
Don't give this picture to Google.
So, yeah.
Go back.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. When it comes to Google, the things that they know is amazing. And you can't even begin to understand until you realize now that even the conversations that you're having are being listened to. And it's not even a joke, it really is. And we're willing to do that because it makes our life better. And as much negativity that comes out of that, we don't stop it and we don't change it. And just for the record, Google, I'm not being negative about it at all. So if I get shoved into a black van, somebody chase me, because I am not leaving here in a black van. So, but remember that. That's what happens. So I appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me. I hope I helped a little bit. Any questions? Anybody have any specific questions, or did I do such a fabulous job?
You did a fabulous job.
Okay, perfect. Thank you guys.
I have a question.
Oh, Ann has a question.
Okay.
I thought you were telling me to ask something.
Because you're the guru we look to for answers. I want to know when websites will quit becoming intake only, and with this AI start becoming outputting of directed messages automatically. I mean, if they have that kind of intelligence, shouldn't your website take in some stuff and then automatically, instead of all the output having to come through social media and other kind of ad campaigns?
Well, I think so. So I actually, the presentation subsequent to this one, I talk a lot about that sensory data that's getting collected through your telephones, for example. If you think about the iPhone, it was at the time this revolutionary device, but none of the technology was new. They just packaged it in a way that it created a good user experience. So they could collect data like, okay, so I picked up the phone, I put it to my ear. So if the camera is covered and the phone is at an angle, it's probably being used to talk, so I should shut the screen off, right? But along with that, they're able to do a whole bunch of other stuff, like track everywhere you go, listen to your conversation, understand what you're shopping for. I mean, when you get in your car at night, it says, oh, 15 minutes to home, unless you're in Atlanta and it's traffic, and then it's, you'll be home tomorrow, right? That'd be the problem. So I think you're right. I don't know as it's websites. I think the argument for website development and the big choice has been made now, but it was whether it will go to app-based or whether it will stay web-based, right? Where you bypass the internet and use everything on your phone as a native app. Everybody should know the difference. Apps are what you download to your phone. The web you don't have to use through a browser. Well, Google would have none of that app stuff, right? So the reality is they've created those basically web apps. So you create the website and it behaves like an application on your phone, and it doesn't even require the internet once you've been there because it caches everything that happened. So yes, they're going to, they already have the ability to manipulate you in certain ways. So when you shop online and they say, oh, Ann is looking for a hat, I mean, she has a couple, but they know she looks for hats. And maybe she looked for this pink hat and she's seen it for $50 here, she saw it for $40 here, and Amazon happens to have it for $29.99, but they know the cheapest she's seen it is $40, so they're going to put it for $34.99 and make themselves a better deal because they already know what she's done. Now you guys are thinking, well, the internet's great, I can shop around and I can get the best deal, but can you? Maybe not. That stuff is in play. Now outputting of data, it really...
Hilton does it right now.
Yeah.
On my Hilton app, when I book my rooms, I already